Good afternoon. This is the House Appropriations Committee. It is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. It's almost 2:45 p.m. and we are continuing to hear from committee chairs about their committee letters for the FY26 budget. And we're grateful to have Chair Wood from the Chair of Human Services Committee come back for a second time and finish up what we weren't able to talk about yesterday. So thank you very much for your flexibility and for returning. We appreciate it. And we will start where we left off, which is at the Office of Economic Opportunity.
Great.
On your chart. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Teresa Wood, Chair of House Human Services. As the chair noted, we're on page 5 of the Human Services chart, if you will. Representative Murphy. And we're at DCF, Office of Economic Opportunity. For folks who know, this is essentially the place where shelter services are managed currently, where HUD funding comes in, where the HOP Housing Opportunity Program, these are grants that go out to community organizations, both for short-term things as well as long-term, like the provision of shelter services. So the governor is proposing a $3.7 million increase in base funding. That's primarily to reflect the operations of new shelters that were developed in FY25 with one-time money, but you can't fund an ongoing shelter with one-time money. So, and then $2 million in one-time funds, again, to increase it or expand existing shelters. So, or expand shelters, not existing ones. So we concur with that recommendation from the governor. These are important services, and the agency of Human Services is really looking at the degree to which we need some potentially population-specific shelters. So, for instance, we still have 400 or so children with their families in shelters. Do we need more family-based shelters? And how would we address those needs? Looking at folks who are older and have some medical support needs. Looking at folks re-entering from corrections or who need assistance with substance use services. So they're really trying to hone in on, are there some sort of specific types of shelter? And they are working with communities on that right now. The next thing is a cost of living increase. As you will see, these are things that the community-based providers were essentially left out of the budget. So this is recommending a 4% cost of living increase for community-based HOP providers.
Who would a HOP provider be?
Oh, it's a variety of different organizations. It can be a specific shelter. It can be a community action agency. It can be a coordinated entry agency. It can be a local housing provider. There's a wide variety, and they actually DCF posts the grant awards and what the grant award was for on their website, and they update that annually. So you can go to the website and see the awards.
I'm ask one follow-up and then turn it over to there's a lot of places where I know that they're non-state employees where we're asking for COLA increases in various places, and I get totally confused as to some of these things. So
these are non-state employees. These are
right,
not state.
So I know the DAs and the SSAs are also not state employees. Are any of the DAs and SSAs also in this?
No.
Okay, so I'm thinking about duplication of.
Yes, no, this was no. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thanks. Tom?
Just for clarification, HOP grants are available to people at 30% or 30% of AMI, is that right? Or is there an upper limit?
I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. it goes for a wide variety of services. So there are specific eligibility requirements depending upon the service that is being supported by the grant. So
For housing, it may be.
for housing, that may very well be true. For shelter services, not, so.
Okay, no, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, and then moving down to ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Again, this was a COVID era program and has been hugely successful. There are 33 really critical case management positions located all across the state that assist individual. We call them case management. They're called all different things. From housing navigators to landlord liaisons to service coordinators to case managers, but they all fall under the rubric for me of this, the larger rubric of case management positions. So this is something that has, we heard from multiple providers that this is really the lifeblood of being able to keep, to prevent people from being homeless, which is, of course, that was what we prefer, and to help address their homelessness. And I will say, there's supposed to be a 1 after H.
We figured that out because mine is about judicial.
It's H91, right? These positions will really be an important case for H91.
Okay, and Jim has a question.
Just quickly, the 33 positions, are those in DCF?
No,
Where are they?
community providers. So they're at community action agencies, they're at housing providers, they're at shelters, they're all across the state in a wide variety of different providers
Or are these positions being funded now?
with ARPA funds.
That's done.
They will be as of the funding runs out for these at the end of June.
Wayne?
So all the 3.75 million is be used by the 33 positions?
Yes, that amount is equal to what it costs to maintain 33 positions.
110,000, a little over 110,000 a year each.
When you do salary and benefits,
Travel.
you're probably not making a lot of salary.
These are positions that are out in the community.
You're probably making 65,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, and then as you heard, I think, Madam Chair, you mentioned this the other day, yesterday. Was that just yesterday?
it was.
The community action agencies were, here asking for some increases, and a couple of the increases that they were looking at specifically were around micro business development program. And this essentially is adding 1 FTE. This will enable each one of the community action agencies, there are 5 of them, to have a micro business development staff person. And you can see the current base there is 493, 339.
So I had on my list from the public hearing, and I don't know if I heard it wrong or I didn't understand the description. I had 1.6 million that was related to micro business, and I must have something wrong in that, but I don't.
Services
It was
generally.
totally. Anyway, so,
It wasn't only micro business.
no, but it was for the CAP agency.
Yeah.
1.6 million.
Yeah.
It was they had a multiple
Yeah.
tiered ask.
I think I just got the total and I couldn't figure out all the rest of
Yeah.
it. So we'll maybe help me clarify that with Maria and get the number down or make sure it's duplicating. Okay, thank you.
Welcome. And if you continue on to the next page, you see some additional community action agency requests for their financial coaching program. Again, this is something that would enable each community action program to have as a resource in their region, staff that specifically deal with helping folks learn how to manage their money. And the current base is 170, and they're looking for 357,000 for that. Okay, the next is the home program. Again, This is a COVID era program that is ending June 30th. And it is assistance with rental and security deposits for up to 24 months. This request would serve an additional 50 families, in addition to the 92 that are currently enrolled, and extend the assistance to 36 months. Sort of it related to this is something that I'm not sure if Representative, yeah, I'm sorry.
Go back to who manages the home program now?
That's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head.
Is it?
I'll find out. I mean, it's from DCF. It's grants out to community providers. I'm just not sure which group of community providers. Representative Stevens might know the answer to that
I
question.
just didn't know if it was housing agency or if it was through the.
I can find out for you.
Couple different programs. I mean, I know the eviction, eviction detention program we did last year, the money went to VSHA, but I don't know where the home program is.
I'll find out though, because I should know the answer to that question. Wayne?
And this was previously ARPA money?
Yes.
CBO.
Thanks.
I think it's the community action agencies, but I'm not sure if it's only the community action agencies.
It's federal money that came through,
It's federal money, yeah.
being replaced.
I think I know the community action agencies use this, and this was probably part of their request, Madam Chair, when you're talking about sort of the global amount.
Yeah.
When you add all these things up. But I'm just not sure. I know that they do it. I'm just not sure if there are any other organizations that do it as well. So related to that, I just, this was just mentioned, the rental arrears eviction prevention program at Vermont State Housing Authority. This is not, really in our jurisdiction, but I'm going to mention it because I'm not sure the chair of the House General and Housing Committee was aware of it, but so there was a $2.5 million one-time grant that was made to VSHA, and the grant was intended to last 18 months. It started in December of 2024. They are going to, at the burn rate of $300,000 per month, they're going to deplete the grant by September of 2025. So I'm bringing this up. The average approval rate is $9,098. It helps keep people housed. And it also pays the landlord. It's a lot of work with landlords, and it pays landlord legal fees as well as providing assistance to the tenants to reestablish good working relationship with their landlords. And it's essentially the same thing that the home family voucher thing did, only that was federal money. This was one-time state money that was in our budget for 25.
I think House General did mention
Did they?
the program. Trying to get my arms around, is it priest that might have been involved with this for via whatever the acronym?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
Priest over? No? Okay. She used to run the United Way at Rutland. She talked to me. I think that's the program she talked about. But it also sounds to me that the CAP agencies are also looking money for helping with rental arrears and keeping people in their apartments and stuff. And it begs the question, are we duplicating efforts, and can we somehow do a better job by making it more efficient for the same dollars?
I have to say, I share actually that thought. I was outvoted by the body last year. The CAP agencies would tell you that their program runs differently and serves a different group of individuals. And they also don't pay landlord attorney fees. This program is set up to do that. This is a statewide program. So one of the benefits is that the same rules apply anywhere you are in the state, with the State Housing Authority. With the in HOP grants, And with this home program that is expiring, due to loss of federal funds, it has, there's variability from region to region in, how much, how long, those kinds of things. And it is less, I think there's, in the HOP program now, I think they limit it to 3 months. So it's different but similar. I can't dispute the fact that it's similar.
Great. I think it's for different populations who qualify under different, and, but the question I thought was, are these positions needed? And my understanding from talking with different CAP agencies and VSHA is that, VSHA holds on to money, right? And does vetting with the liaison from, one of the many these 33 people, basically, for those who would qualify and who are assumed to be able to pay their rent in the future, they'll be referred to VSHA.
Those 33 positions are the linkages
Yes.
to the program, yes.
Exactly, because VSHA doesn't really have much in the way of staff to advertise this, and to vet people in the way that they, the VSHA wants and needs to. So at any rate, that's the role that I understand they play.
Yes, did you?
Just a piece of clarification on the BSHA money. That program was restarted. It went back to being closer to the original ARPA or the original COVID money. I forget the acronym for the first money, where it was easier for landlords and tenants to access the money, once the ARPA money came in, the strings got a lot thicker. So it's easier to access, and that's why I think it's being accessed at a slightly higher level than what was contemplated last year. So
Yeah, and they are being successful in preventing homelessness and evictions. So that's a good thing. The home program has also been successful in preventing evictions and homelessness as well. But I think we recognize that as a state, we're faced with lots of different priorities, and will we be able to replace all lost federal funding? I pretty sure the answer to that is no. So I understand that, but it's our job to bring forth these services that have assisted Vermonters.
Okay. Wayne?
But if the federal money's gone and all the strings attached that these people would be navigating, it's no longer there, then are the strings that we attach going to be necessarily as much so that it requires them to do this much work?
I think the Vermont State Housing Authority program is a state-run program, state-run and state-funded. So it is, I have on our committee's website, there's a whole PowerPoint about it, because we took some testimony as it relates to our homelessness bill under Kathleen Burke on February 17th. So you can find out more information about how they run that there. But yeah, the uptake on the program has been pretty significant. $300K a month is pretty significant. And it's assisting landlords and tenants. Okay, now we're moving on to Dale, the Department of Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living. And if you hear nothing else from me, you'll hear the correct name of the department. So please don't refer to it as the Department of Aging and Disabilities, because it's not any longer. It was back when Dave was there, but Department of Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living. So we have, there was a rate study that was completed funded in 24. So it was done in 23. Oh, it's right there. As part of a compromise between the House and the Senate, on a Medicaid rate bill. There was language inserted in the budget that for the FY '23 that caused to have occur a specific rate study for a particular group of home and community-based services. So we're talking about things like homemaker services, respite services, assistive community care services, personal care, ERC is enhanced residential care. And we did great in the first year. We implemented year one, of a 3-year plan. Last year, we didn't implement anything in the budget. To show you how far off some of the rates were, the res care rate was 79% below cost, the rate that we were paying. And we have lost dozens of residential care homes, and which is not the direction that we should be going. We need to have those beds and services available to older Vermonters.
So Teresa,
Yeah.
pardon me for interrupting, when in the budget adjustment, we had $24.5 million.
No, that's
That's what I want, that's the point I want to make, is that was for nursing homes.
Yeah.
Which is a more expensive level of care than what you're talking about here.
Yes. Yes, you'll see that on the next page.
Okay.
Um,
So this is a less expensive level of.
This is home and community-based
Less
services
expensive cost.
in a setting that people prefer. Right.
Okay.
Much less costly in a setting that people prefer. And so this would fully fund the remaining part of that rate study at 4.4 million in general fund. And these are all eligible for global commitment. Yeah. And Nolan or Maria, somebody, they have the details about each service. The next is a low cost but highly effective program, Home Share. I don't know how many people are familiar with Home Share, but this is another opportunity for us to address homelessness and to address people who are precariously housed, and to enable people to stay in their own homes for a bit longer. They would love to expand to the Northeast Kingdom. You don't have any Northeast.
Yes, we do.
Oh, okay. They want to expand to your area.
Saw that.
So they've been highly effective in making matches. They're low cost matches, but really the cost of this program is the matchmaking part and the staffing part. And people are matched based upon their interests, based upon what both the person who has a home and the person who is looking for a home, what their likes and interests and abilities are. And sometimes people provide the rate of depression among older Vermonters is very high in Vermont. And this is something that helps address that isolation as well. And it's a very personalized approach. So each match is personalized to what those individuals agree to. And so this would enable them to be in the Northeast Kingdom and serve roughly 100 people.
That we talked about, we talked a little bit about this morning, Rep. Mahali mentioned it and said that you'd be talking about it some more. And you talked about the homelessness prevention, which is part of the conversation we were having. And I'm wondering if it's more a matter of keeping people from becoming homeless in the first place, as opposed to coming out of, say, the hotel motel program and into Home Share.
Yeah, it's actually done both.
Have you seen?
It has, yeah. They reported that they have taken some referrals. I'm not sure if they were specifically from the hotel motel program, but people who have been in shelters, so they have done matches. Obviously, needs to be an appropriate match, and but there's a trial period, where the homeowner can say, this isn't working out, and so yeah,
it does work in both directions.
it works in both directions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
One more.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just want to back up for a second.
Sure.
Beat to the one, 4,387,000, that's just for the study?
No, that's to implement the rate increases. The study has already been done.
Okay.
The study was done in fiscal year 23, and we implemented what was supposed to be phase 1 of a 3-year plan to come into the rates that were in the rate study conducted by the Department of Vermont Health Access. We did great in year 1. Year 2, we didn't do anything, and are really hoping this really is one of our highest priorities to keep people out of nursing homes.
So is this all administrative money or this is actually paid?
No, this is direct services money. This is money going for personal care. It's money going for assisted living environments, for homemaker services.
That's as well.
Dave?
Do you believe, back to what Wayne was just talking about on page 6, do you believe if that priority was done, that it would take pressure off of the nursing home utilization costs that we see elsewhere in the budget?
I wish I could say that there was a direct correlation. I definitely believe that we will reduce the rate of closure of residential care homes that we're seeing in the state by increasing the rates. And I believe that we will keep people out of nursing facilities by the ability of our home and community-based service providers to actually recruit at wages so that they can help people stay at home.
So it helps.
Yeah, yes, it will help. I just can't tell you like, a 1-for-1 correlation kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Are we ready to move on?
Yes, please.
Okay. The next is Meals on Wheels. Just a little history. 2 years ago, the legislature put in $1 million for Meals on Wheels. Prior to that, there was no state money in the Meals on Wheels program. Last year, we said, take that 1 million and match it with Medicaid, and which was done through Global Commitment Investments. And this year, they are looking for an increase of 2 million in GF, 4.85 million in Global Commitment. With this investment and the current federal and other state funding, this still leaves a lot of room for fundraising of local Meals on Wheels sites. So this would bring them up to an average of $10.65 a meal in federal and state reimbursements. And their average cost of meals delivered is $13.43 a meal. So they would still have to secure low-cost products. They would still have to secure funding at the local level. You often may see, I don't know, in my community, we see a request on our town meeting ballot to support our senior center as our meals provider. So I'm sure that others of you may see this around the state.
Okay, I'm going to just set us our time. We have 20 minutes left. Look at the priorities on what they wrote. And so I'm not going to completely not tell you not to ask your question, but think about whether you need to ask the question. Because we have 20 minutes left. We haven't done language either. Did you have a quick question you wanted to ask, Wayne?
Did? Oh, I wanted to ask, the food banks and such, do they work with the Meals on Wheels people?
Yes, they do. Okay, I'm going to move a little quicker. The next is again, a 4% home and community-based services COLA. Includes all of the services that you see there. We have language about that. It's a high ticket item. I'm not gonna mince words, but JFO can tell you what each 1% is. I mean, you can divide that by 4, so you could figure it out, but okay. And then next, I don't know if you have heard from the departments when they talked about conflict-free case management, and there is a cost to that in the budget. There is $5.8 million included in that. It's a federal requirement.
Yep.
The administration is budgeted for a full year of this. So I'm giving some money back. It's one-time money.
So it really is a minus.
It is a minus.
Okay, we've been figuring out because some of we thought were minuses were pluses.
Yeah, no, this is a minus. So the Choices for Care program, that's already being implemented. So, but in developmental disability services, which is the bigger chunk, they are not likely to enter into a contract for this until at least 4 months into the fiscal year. So that's a one-time savings, but just pointing that out for you.
Thank you.
Statutory nursing home increases, it's not only the inflation, but the rebase. There is language about this. We are concerned honestly about the ongoing need for emergency financial relief for this industry. And we have some language that we'll review in a minute about that. And again, I'm just pointing out that all of the highest cost settings are the ones that are getting addressed in this budget, and the low cost preventative home-based settings are not getting anything. Okay, the same is true, there's $24.5 million. That's consistent with the FY25 BAA. They had over,
Another 24.5 million?
this is to put it in the base.
Oh,
So the 25 BAA was not in addition to the base.
this is still emergency financial relief?
No, this is utilization.
Okay.
And again, we're concerned about the increasing share of the Choices for Care program that is being utilized by nursing facilities, because it is one budget, it's one appropriation. What we use on the highest end is not available then for the lower end preventative and home and community-based services. Okay, caseload. Okay, the next is what we see every year. It's a caseload adjustment for increased caseload in developmental services. It's consistent. They use the same formula ever since I developed it a long time ago. So I know it well. Okay, adult day services. We are asking for some consideration here, and in H13, we actually addressed this issue. This is because of absences of older Vermonters, who are ill, who may have a difficulty, and the adult day center doesn't get paid unless a person shows up, and they really still need to keep the lights on and pay the utilities and pay their staff. And there are other Medicaid funded programs that allow for a certain number of absences before the rate is impacted. And so in H13, we ask the department to work on that. In the interim, this is a request for $800,000 in one time. Department of Health. We're going to move on to Department of Health because we have a lot of language to look at the same time.
Yes.
Okay. The stuff we concur with, I'm just going to kind of like scoot by, okay, unless you have questions about it. There is money being taken out of general fund and being funded in H218. So when you look at 218, you'll see these dollar amounts in H218. And the administration asked for a separate bill for 218, and I think that made a lot of sense.
So too.
Yeah,
It might get too confusing.
yeah. Okay, this is moving general fund out of the prevention fund, 3 million out, and it's we had added 3.7 million, I think, in the 25 BAA. This puts it in the base plus another 3 million, so it's the 3 million that's being taken out of GF. So the excise tax, I guess the news is that people are buying enough cannabis that it is funding our prevention work. Again, we have some, I'm not going to call them concerns, but questions about the effective use. There's, we have $11.1 million in prevention, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but we want to make sure that that's being used in the most effective way possible. And this is one of those places where we are saying the transfer to DCF for the purpose of funding an increase to Mentor Vermont should come out of these prevention funds. That's where we found a source of funding without adding to the request. Opioid settlement, again, moving to 218. The 3 aftercare coordinators for substance use treatment from DOC involved individuals. We concur with the governor's recommendation about that. And then we come to a pretty significant chunk of money and significant, if you will, new program. It's being touted as a 15-bed pilot recovery campus, which I really hate, but campus always reminds me of Brandon Training School. This is, we've been working collectively, the administration, several representatives with the federal judiciary around, a piece of our service system in Vermont, which is very well developed, but is really lacking in a longer term step down from residential treatment. So where you, if you think about Valley Vista, where you might go for, I know I'm going to use the wrong word, but I know that there's a new, more modernly accepted word, but detox is it's the only thing that comes to mind. The ability then to have still some highly structured support that will prevent a relapse. And so the thought is that this will be assisting in that. We had, I will say, we had some questions about this. We had questions, there is an RFI that's already been issued to see what the interest is and be engaged out there. And there's 500,000 in one time for fit up and renovation. We really felt that this should have been part of the ongoing decision-making process with the opioid abatement special fund advisory committee, and it was not presented to them. And that's the comment. That's where I'll leave it.
So they don't have a location for this yet?
There's rumors. That's all they are, is rumors.
Yeah.
I don't have any factual information.
Right. Okay. Rumors always bad. Okay. Do you have a question, Wade? You have a
Nothing that went through nothing that have to do with the capital. So,
But this didn't go through the Capitol.
No, I thought about the 500,000 should have probably at least gone through the capital bill. I don't.
Yeah.
1.5 is operations, but I'm really trying to figure out how they're going to have a recovery residence for 1.5 million for 15 people. That would be very cost effective.
Well, I wonder how long it is. It's not a year's worth of operations.
This is just state money at this point in time, I think. Yeah.
Right. This is assuming only a few months of it.
yeah.
It's going to be.
Yeah, I think that's totally possible. I don't.
know what that cost is going to be in the future. Yeah.
Well, we asked some questions about that, and there weren't a lot of details. I did talk with one of your committee members, Representative McGuire, and he explained the purpose and the gap that it fills, because it's not the same as recovery housing, which doesn't have the same level of support that this would.
Yeah, recovery housing is definitely much more peer-based,
Yeah.
I guess I would say, with, some assistance depending upon what, they have different levels of certification in recovery housing. This is a professionally staffed, more structured, I guess I would say.
Can I ask what, in your committee's opinion, the consequences would be of waiting until there's been a little bit more groundwork done to present the idea for funding? It's 1.5 million in base already. And I don't know how much detail your committee heard about this, but.
Well, in the original budget presentation, it was fairly broad in general. And we actually brought the commissioner back when we had him in to testify on H218. We asked more about this because we felt like we didn't have a good handle on exactly what purpose this was serving. And so I felt like we had a better handle after that, at least on what element in the service system that the gap that it was trying to fill. And it is, I will say, is something that the courts are looking for. And, you know, it's, I'm not going to say that it's a Jenna's promise kind of thing, but I think that they would want to model it as much as possible on that. So employment supports would be there, and, mental health support would be there, and,
Okay.
support in their recovery. It's a, the concept is new.
Yes.
It's new.
Doesn't mean it's bad.
It doesn't mean it's bad.
No, it's just new.
I was just, and then I did some informal checking with people in the business, and the people I spoke to with didn't really know about it until they saw it in the governor's budget. And that troubles me a bit, because I feel like it should, an investment like this, should have the support of the community of providers that are out there. And it may very well have the support. People were just surprised. It was not something that had been discussed. And again, it's the purpose of the Opioid Abatement Settlement Committee, Advisory Committee, is to evaluate, new proposals that deal with substance use treatment, and recovery. And it didn't go there. So,
Great. That's all helpful information. Thank you.
okay.
Let's go to the last page.
Yep, 4% COLA, that is the same. We were very consistent, Madam Chair and members of the committee. We wanted to make sure that we represented all of the service systems. So we have the substance use treatment providers here, that are normally left out of these kinds of things. And then this next piece is recovery centers. I think I just need to point out that recovery centers and recovery housing are two different things. So the centers are, I guess I would call them more like,
Centers.
yeah, like,
They're drop-in daytime.
daytime supports generally. They're open on weekends, a lot of them. Some of them have evening hours. But they're drop-in kinds of things. It's where you get really the kind of support people need to prevent them from relapsing. And so, again, we believe that this is preventative work that these recovery centers do, and we believe that that should be funded from the prevention fund. So again, we are highlighting that part of that $11 million should be spent here.
Not from the opioid settlement fund.
No, because we really look at the work that's being done in these centers as prevention. Although if you made a different decision and it was funded anyway, then I'm not going to argue about it, but we thought
Recommending 800.
we're recommending 800.
Okay.
Yeah. And then empty arms, maybe I saved the best for last, or this is a very small amount of money that would enable peer support for individuals and families whose babies have died, either before they were born or shortly after being born. And it really is from what people have written to us, a life-saving support for parents who have gone through the loss of a child.
That's just 2-year commitment, right? It's
80.
40, yeah. 40 per year.
Well, I mean, we want it to be in the base.
Who would it go through? Because we don't.
Health department.
Oh, sure. Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go to language.
Okay, let's go to language. Okay, the first is, remember yesterday we talked about rateable reduction. This is instructing the department to address the rateable reduction and then to do it again next year by another 1%. The second section, where it calls section B, general assistance emergency housing. So this is because H91, which the language, the very, very draft language, if you're interested in H91, is open on our website today. This is essentially the money for the transition year between the beginning of H91, which will take a full year of transition. And so this continues the hotel motel program for this interim year until it's replaced by the Vermont Hearth program.
So the eligibility and all of this, most of this language is what we've seen before.
It is. I will, let me point out things that are different.
That would be great.
Okay. All right, nothing on that page. Description, nothing there. Health provider, 19, experienced death, all those are the same. Domestic violence. Okay, so on, oh, sorry, it's not, pages aren't numbered, but letter B, almost all the way down after paragraph 8, where it says the department shall provide emergency housing to households with an eligible member pursuant to that, okay? On a first come, first served basis and shall not establish priority groups among eligible individuals. So this was a bone of contention with the emergency rules and then the final rulemaking, and our committee worked with LCAR to help folks understand that the prioritization process that was being used by DCF was not consistent with legislative intent. And they ultimately agreed. And so that this language is to essentially implement the LCAR ruling. Do I have that right, Trevor? I just want to make sure I didn't want to overstep.
Okay.
So
Question?
in section B, we have all the tests, the attesting. I can don't put in that they would attest that they're not on illicit drugs, that they're not, that nobody's been convicted of domestic abuse or child abuse or things like that, but people we might not want to be in there with children, that they would attest that they're not those types.
That is correct, because it does serve, if you meet the criteria up above, okay, so, if you, let me just, say, for instance, if you happen to be a person who's 65 years of age or older and you have a substance use problem, that is not going to disqualify you from receiving assistance, for emergency housing. I don't believe so. I mean, I think what this is as we implement the new program, this is an avenue to try to assist people to move out of the situation where they're in now and try to better their situation, to move into more permanent housing with the supportive services that they might need, including substance use services. And it is one of the things that the administration is looking at in terms of shelter space specifically for people with substance use disorder. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people with substance use disorder, so 1 or even 2 shelters is not going to meet the need. So that is one area that is different. The rest of that page is the same. Engaging in their own search for housing. That's the same. B is the same. Okay, 3 also is, 3 on the next page is also the result of an LCAR ruling. So we were making this consistent. The current rules say that you essentially have to be penniless, and that does not assist people in moving out of homelessness. So you do have to be able to save for first and last month's rent and security deposits. The current
Be there forever.
exactly. So it didn't make any sense. So we were being consistent with LCAR ruling on that. D, the only thing that we added there, the department shall make conforming changes to its website. They have not updated the website, even though we haven't had those categories in quite some time now. I don't think there's anything else there. one of the things that you will see is that, we moved away from an 80-day per person cap, annual per person cap, and instead said there's a fixed number of beds, a capacity for beds. One, that's going to make the program simpler to administer. And two, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're serving every person who is homeless, because we're not doing that today. And we are not going to under this proposal either. I'm just putting that out there. But that is a change. And I think that's it for the changes.
So you have a fixed number of beds. Is that number?
Yeah, I was looking for the number here.
I see that $80 per room. We've kept that. Yeah.
1537.
Yes, where'd you see that, Representative?
Page numbers, above 2A.
It's 1437, I think is correct. I'm just not happy to, it's not popping out to me, but
I think the fourth page.
Oh, yeah, the top of the page after the.
right there. Yes, I see it now. Yeah. So that's,
So you give them a fixed number of rooms and a fixed price, a fixed appropriation, and that's that.
yes.
Okay, Jim.
On the cap of the room, how does that count shelter capacity versus hotel?
This is hotel rooms. It does not count shelter capacity.
Increase in the hotel capacity than what we're
It's actually roughly what is being used right now.
going to.
Yes,
It was a lower cap. The rest.
it was 1,100. Yes, previously.
This,
This is year round. Yep. And so there are, I'm not going to pull out the right number. There are between 500 and 600 additional beds in shelters around the state. There's no cap, daily cap in shelters. You stay as long as you need to find housing or if you decide to leave. Okay. I don't think there's anything more there.
Okay, section C.
Oh, okay, C, section C. Sorry, just before it says Department for Children and Families, FSD. Contracting for emergency shelter operations and services.
Yep.
So honestly, we were concerned about the quite high rate that was paid to an out-of-state organization to run the Waterbury and Williston shelters, family shelters. And so this is new language. The department shall prioritize, it doesn't say it's exclusive, but contracts with organizations that are in close proximity to the community served, and an organization that's familiar with the specific needs of the community. So it's kind of making a statement about, let's look at Vermont-based companies.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, and then Department for Children and Families. This is, there are a myriad number of private nonprofit providers in the DCF system that do everything from things like Prevent Child Abuse Vermont to the Lund Home to there's a whole host of them. I mean, literally, there's a lot of them. At one point, we tried to get a list of all the grants and contracts that DCF had with all these community organizations. And they not only have a grant or contract with an organization, but if they don't have, like designated agencies have a master grant. And so all the funding flows in that one master grant. If you are a contractor with DCF, for the most part, and you have 3 different programs, you have 3 different grants. Again, we are just saying that they should identify what cost of living would be for each 1% over the previous year's funding.
Okay. So I'm looking at the time again.
And I'll quickly, because I want to come back.
The ones that we can sort of skip and have whoever is in charge.
Okay.
Here do, then let's do that.
Okay, the supervised visitation programs, I do just want to point out that There's something in here. There's something in here that mentions the Office of Family, Youth and Child Advocate, and they say they don't want to be named. So we'll just make sure we get that.
Okay, I don't
Language.
in there.
I was gonna say, I must have printed a more updated version.
Yeah.
Okay. Stakeholder work, this is just, continuing that work group that is already existing, for 2 more years because the facility is still being, built
Yeah.
or negotiated. Section G deals with the $200,000, for a mentor to come out of the, prevention, funds. And, again, Dale, it's the same language about tell us every year in your budget, so we don't have to ask you, what 1% would be. Payment reform, this is a substantive, issue for, families. I've received numerous, emails, from families as well as from the, Vermont Care Partners. There is major systems change that has been ongoing in the designated agency system, particularly around services for people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. And right now, we're in the process of implementing conflict-free case management. There's also a payment reform process going on whereby they're going to be looking at independent assessment process, which was a new process that people have just gone through. And connecting that with the budget. So Vermont Care Partners is very clear. They're not opposed to payment reform. They just, if we can concentrate on implementation of one major systems change at a time with families and our staff, that's what would be appreciated. And again, I had multiple families contact me with that same request. So all this does is to say, continue working, but don't implement payment reform until a year out. They were going to implement them both in the same this year. And then the language that I spoke to you about nursing homes, and you can read through this at your leisure, but we really are asking for more information to really better understand why we're continuing to receive all of these extraordinary financial relief requests. And
are these are for-profit?
They are for-profit and not-for-profit. They're both.
Okay.
Privately owned, lots of them out-of-state owned. But yeah, don't get me going.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay.
Very much.
The rest is language you will all find very familiar if you've been on this committee before. It's all dealing with the HIV/AIDS language, which is consistent from year to year. And then on the last page, section L, Department of Health, this is information that we are asking about how they determine essentially the outcomes and priorities for the use of the prevention funds.
Great.
Okay,
Accountability.
Yeah.
That's good.
the end. And this, did I say this yesterday? This was a 10-1 vote in my committee.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we obviously put a lot of work into this. But on a different topic, a different note, with 5 days left,
I know.
I acknowledge Health and Human Services in second place last year in team standings.
This is the first place team cheated. I have no idea. I just made that up.
We tried to put aside that you left us in the dust, appropriations, and we'll try not to let that influence all your requests.
Okay, I appreciate that
Congratulations.
immensely.
Thank you so much for coming in, Madam Chair.
Okay, but CVOEO administers the statewide home program, family voucher for the whole program.
Okay.
I think that's what Representative Lumley was saying, and I didn't quite catch on, but got a phone friend text from somebody. Okay, thank you all for your consideration, and I appreciate your full funding of our request.
We appreciate your asking for it.
Good luck.
You appreciate my optimism, correct? Right?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to go right into education because we're already running late, and it's education. Kirk Hodlin, please. Table.
Everybody, Peter Conlon, Chair of House Education. Just so everybody understands, because education is largely funded through the Ed Fund and is largely, the money is all about funding school budgets that have been voted. Our budget memo tends to be more reactive to the requests that have come before us and that have come before you, really, as opposed to any sort of large scale language tinkering within the AOE's budget or within the Ed Fund as well.
You really are focused on the Agency of Education budget itself as opposed to
And
school budgets.
and typically, the AOE budget has been fairly standard issue increases for the people who work there, maybe a few other things. The only thing out of ordinary this year was the $4 million request, which I think you probably already heard a presentation on.
We'll talk.
Okay.
We got something that was lacking any specifics, which I believe is the same letter you got.
Yes.
You just got it, but there's.
Yep.
Okay. Tell us about your letter.
All right, so our letter, it sort of goes in descending order. But again, they're all our children and we don't want to throw any of them out. Really, first and foremost, the State Board of Education came in, made a request for some significantly additional funding. The State Board currently does all the rulemaking within the education sphere. And since the split, when we went to a Secretary of Education, and more so even these days, is they're funded at a very weak level. It barely funds their $50 a day stipend and maybe a little bit of legal help. The AOE is not obligated and does not always provide the staff or legal support that they need. And in fact, they probably shouldn't, because there's a certain amount of conflict because one sort of has oversight of the other. So what they're asking for is probably long overdue increase in their annual operating budget, but they're also asking for a one-time lump sum that would help them sort of clear out a backlog of work, not just in terms of what their day-to-day work is in terms of rulemaking, but also a deep dive into cleaning out sort of what their roles and responsibilities are, what are things that they shouldn't be doing, and what is just sort of old language that no longer needs to be on the books, whether it be regulations, rules, or whatever. And they just haven't had the time or resources, basically the resources, because they don't have a budget to allow them to hire the legal counsel that they need or the staffing that they need in order to do this work. To say nothing of the frankly paltry amount of money they get for the amount of time they put in between the full board meetings and all of the various committee meetings, which are long and involved. So that's why we really strongly support it. And we also support it as we prepared to move to some sort of educational transformation. It's going to be really important that the roles of both sides are defined and that a lot of this backlog of work gets cleared out, regardless of how those roles are defined in a future educational ecosystem. So anyway, that's sort of, we came in with strong support for that. We strongly support the requests from the state colleges and UVM, all of which are in line with the governor's ask. There were certain requests that came before us that we felt really should be more in the arena of other committees. That would be the Vermont State College's budget request for maintenance at $6 million. Generally, institutions has dealt with the buildings at our state colleges. The AOE regular budget, we didn't have much to say about. As always, we say annually, we're concerned with the AOE's capacity from a staffing level. They have numerous vacancies and they are, working to do what they can to fill them. And it's a little hard though for us to sort of create positions in the AOE without them asking for them. And so we are not proposing anything at this stage of the game. Like you, they came in with a request for $4 million in education transformation funds. We certainly support the concept that if we are going to do major change, whether it be exactly what's in the governor's proposal or something modified from that, it is in fact going to take a significant support to the field that the AOE is going to have to provide. And what they have said is that that is exactly what this money is designed for. So from a high concept level, we certainly support it. And we understand that the bulk of this is to, I would say from their point of view, to get us over the hump of the transition by using temporary consultants.
That was the part that whole thing was unclear to me in that letter.
Yes.
It was a high level abstract kind of.
Well, I think
We need to be more prescriptive than it is. We need to have something more specific than what we have. And, we can talk about what that might look like and what, you would like. And, and the whole, there's multiple committees that need to weigh in and we can do that, but we need to figure out something because right now.
it's a little bit challenging just based on timing because you obviously need to put together a budget and all of that.
Right.
Meanwhile, we don't really even know what educational transformation is going to look like yet.
Right, but we probably have some core ideas that we could talk about how they.
Well, and I would say that certainly asking AOE for more specifics as to
Yes,
who they want to hire and for what purposes,
right,
I think is
Exactly.
totally appropriate.
so we don't just give 4 million for,
Yes.
more than that.
Yes, if we guys were giving out 4 million here and there like that, we would come in with much more requests.
Yes.
In the sort of the smaller ask area, the Governor's Institute has generally been supported every year. They're asking just for the 3% increase that other places have been asking for. We support that. There was a farm to school request for $1 million. We would defer to our colleagues in agriculture to come in on that. We did get, it took us a bit to understand. There was a request from Hunger Free Vermont for $182,000.
That was the CACFP, not to be confused.
It was CCFAP, yes. The extent to which this program provides free food for low-income Vermonters accessing home childcare centers and the extent to which this draws down federal dollars, we felt that we were really, the money we can support. I think probably the bigger question for our committee was having AOE become the fiscal agent for it. We had quick communication with AOE. They did not object to it. And so therefore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is this in Rosie's area or?
Yeah, that's who.
Yeah, okay. And so, so you've got enough information to be satisfied that the program would be run all right? Because we were worried, remember, with budget adjustment that it wasn't quite fleshed out enough, but you feel confident with that. Okay.
The BAA, adult education language continues to be a hard topic to understand. However, there was a request from them to have language in the budget so they don't need to come back and then talk through the BAA again next year. One of the real things we're trying to do is get them on a financial footing so they don't have to come in here every year and ask for their appropriation, which we ultimately give them anyway. So to the extent possible that this committee can solve those language issues in the budget rather than having them come back again for the BAA, and help those organizations plan for the future.
Did they give you language?
No.
Okay. We may have a draft of some language somewhere, Mike, that we can talk about.
And then the final thing in our budget memo was Advance Vermont. They always come to us each year. They have been basically running on a year-to-year appropriation, and they're looking for a little more stability. We continue to be impressed with the product that they have created. Where they struggle is the year-to-year funding to allow them to deploy it in schools at the level that it really should be.
The governor put it in one time, or this is a separate request? He
This is,
did not budget for this at all.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And they're asking for base funding.
Right. Everybody's
I
figuring.
would say that everybody would like base funding,
Everybody
of
wants.
course, yes. It's a, you know, what they, as we think about our workforce needs and the opportunities in Vermont, they have created a, you know, very accessible portal to any high school or really any Vermonter. One of the target audiences is, of course, the high school students, to be able to really kind of go in, explore careers and be given a real pathway as to how to achieve what they want to achieve and sort of what the return on investment is.
Just double check, is this the only place that there's an ask that's beyond the governor's recommend? Is this 350?
No, he's got more.
That's it for our memo. The other ones are above. But
The Hunger Free, the CACFP for 182, 488, I think is the State Board of Education.
Yep.
And then whatever you think we have left over.
If we could fund the teacher, the teacher loan repayment.
Asks that we have. We'll
Yes.
just- Yeah, yeah.
That was obviously one of the many programs created with the available federal dollars that have run out.
Right. and
We
then-
understand the challenge of that.
Part of it.
It was highly successful.
Going away,
It was very successful.
yes. We had a lot of very successful ARPA programs.
Yes.
Peter, I think that State College, maybe it's here and I'm not seeing it, but it also asked for $5 million scholarships.
That may have been VSACs.
That was VSAC, that's the Vermont, Unity.
And they actually had more because they had 10 million in the Freedom and Unity Scholarship Program.
Yes,
We asked for some more in some other different ways.
but I don't think that 5 million is in the governor's budget, so.
Yeah.
So what they're trying to, did you folks weigh in on that?
We did not weigh in on that. I mean, we're all for it. Can we just find the 5 million?
So we have a little extra time. Do you want to tell us about your education plan?
No.
Do you want to tell us where we can look for some things?
So, you know, we are currently, our committee is currently working off of H 454, which is the governor's language that was put together by the Agency of Education. You know, without diving into the minutia of the language, there are a lot of gaps and holes that need to be filled and a lot of work to do, but we're really sort of going through the various high-level concepts, such as fewer districts, not necessarily 5 districts, but what do we all think about fewer districts? Why do we believe that? What if it doesn't save any money? Is it still worth pursuing that? That was our big discussion today. And so we're going to continue to work through these high-level parts in order to sort of work within the higher concepts that are in there and find hopefully something that we can reach some consensus on. Yeah.
Tom.
On that a little bit, the question here of funding or giving AOE or giving the school board, the state board's capacity to do the work that they're still meant to do, that's separate from any consideration still what may happen in the larger reform that we've heard about. Is that accurate for right now?
Yes, if there's
There's not a value statement on the State Board of Education necessarily, except for this year.
it is certainly a value statement on their proposal to really sort of clean everything up, get them focused on what they should focus on, AOE focused on what they should focus on, and all of the stuff that has sort of been building up because of their lack of capacity and lack of ability to hire staff to clear that out. But basically, you're right. Yes, it is about what the reality is today, not for the future.
Any other questions? We're getting off easy after reading healthcare and human services.
Did you all solve healthcare? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, give us a couple more minutes after the break. Great.
Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
Healthcare, you just triggered something. Do you know by any means, how much healthcare premiums drive education spending?
There is a number out there. It's a big number. I don't know what it is.
That might be an Emily Ways and Means question.
Yeah, and yeah, it's, I could probably dig it up for you pretty quickly, but yeah.
That might be nice to, yeah, let us know when you find it.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. No, Lynn?
Yes, I do have a question on that. Years ago, things have changed, but years ago when I was actually first in the house, the superintendent that we had in our district said that the healthcare costs were over 4% of their total budget. It's gone up since then. I mean, 8% would be double, 12% would be triple that.
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking at, 12%
Oh, I would think so.
or more? Or-
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, if you want to just sort of throw out some numbers, the sort of the standard issue plan that just receive if they're married and have children is the EHP Gold Plan through VHI. But that's about $40,000 a year just to pay for that. So
For one
for one married
One
teacher with children,
with family.
yeah.
It's a family plan.
$1,000 a year.
So what happened to the, way back when, not that long ago, there was a turmoil about the fact that there was ACA required Cadillac plans to either change or pay a penalty.
That's right.
Okay, and the teachers clearly were among those that had a Cadillac plan.
That's right.
And the people that seemed to be the most affected were the paras, the support staff. The teachers, did they not continue with that, or did they?
No, everybody moved to new plans that VHI put out that were all ACA compliant. The CDHP Gold Plan is that way. Then they start measuring plans in terms of actuarial values. And because of the way the health reimbursement program works, it has a high actuarial value that might sort of be the same as a Cadillac plan of old. I don't know, but all of the plans that the public school insurance trust offers are all ACA compliant.
So that's all contractual in their contracts.
Yeah.
So that can change.
Yes.
Has it over the years?
It is currently essentially an 80-20 split. Teachers, all public school employees that have access have to pick off of the ACA compliant plans that VHI offers. You can choose a gold plan, a silver plan, or whatever. I guess that's about all I can say about that.
Okay, thank you.
Wayne, go ahead.
So the 40,000, that's total with the split.
That's correct. Yes, that would be split 80. Yeah. It's just expensive healthcare like we all have.
Well, not all.
Fun topics. All right.
All right.
Better go before we ask more
All right.
questions.
We can solve healthcare together. Thank you all very much.
Thanks very much, Peter. So committee, we're gonna, in a minute, just take a break, and we are getting copies printed of the spreadsheet thing. So Maria, do we have a sense as to when?
So, I can go down there and check. I know that Tony's doing it right now.
So maybe we should break until 4:20. Does that seem like enough time?
Sounds like a good plan, yeah.
Or wait a second, what time is it now? It's 4, let's break to 4:15, because that's fast. So we have almost 15 minutes, and then we'll come